Hello, it is March of the Mammoth time. This is an event hosted by Alex at Big Owl Books, Jason at Old Blues Chapter and Verse, and Lukash at Cruel Reader's Thesis, where they encourage you to take up at least at least one 800 plus page book in the March and read it, not to be daunted by super gigantic books. And there is this is a very wide open thing. On one side, you have Al, who I think has a stack of about three or four mammoths that she's very ambitiously going to read all in the month of March. I think that's her plan. And then there's someone like Jason, who quite proudly says he is somebody who has never ever actually finished his mammoth in March. Indeed, it usually takes him a good ways through the year to actually finish it, but he starts it in March, and you get to have kind of that very kind of rewarding read. So this is one of these read-alongs that is not it's not a read-along, it's a reading challenge where you get to pick the book, which is open to every level of reader. I'm far more on the Jason side of things. I stand with Jason in like, yeah, March goes by, the various other months go by before you actually maybe finish your mammoth. But the big thing is you start it in March. You maybe have a really good concentrated read in March to get you really, really deep into a book, and that just lovely thing of getting lost in a book. And something about being a gigantic book is allows you for it to expand and expand, sort of suck you in and take up, and it becomes your whole world. Is one of the big joys of reading. I did not know. I still don't. I did not know whether I wanted to actually participate this year. I think a lot of people have the same thing of how much energy you have at this point. How many spoons? Teaspoon? Quarter teaspoon? 16th teaspoon? I don't think it was a 16th teaspoon. But yeah, but I decided, okay, it's March 1st. Let's find a book. Let's find a book. And because I'm doing this so half-assed, just books out of the various books that I have here. Pick one, which makes it pretty easy. There's long books that are on various piles that I have, which are too short. These are pikers. I think only like 600 or 700 pages long. They don't match. They don't meet that 800 plus. That 800 plus bar that the hosts have. They're probably really suggesting they're not going to be mad at me. They wouldn't have been mad at me if I'd picked up one of these and read that in March. But you get that kind of obsessive, I want to follow the rules kind of thing, and so it's like I'll put those ones aside to read at some other point. Another possibility might have been Patricia Highsmith's her diaries and notebooks, 1941 to 1995, which has I've only really just looked at kind of the apparatus around it, and it seems like it's like really well done. That this isn't one of these journals and diaries where you just get dropped in and you have no idea who it is. There's little essays and stuff like that, and little biographies sprinkled throughout to kind of bring you up to speed, so you know who these people are in Patricia Highsmith's life. It's a library book, so there was no way I was actually going to finish reading this, or I basically got out of the library to kind of take a look at it. I vaguely thought about, maybe I just buy the ebook for the March of the Mammoths, because I think whatever book I do get, I will end up getting an ebook copy of. At the moment, this is hot off the presses, so the ebook is like $37. So that is something for another time, for when this becomes a paperback and suddenly that electronic book goes down in price to match the now paperback price of this particular tome. People should get paid, but other people need to watch their pennies, especially when lots of construction and other things is going on in the house. So that eliminates another big book. That leaves me with two books that have made appearances, I think, probably in this the March of the Mammoths before. One of them is A Place of Greater Safety, Hilary Mantel, all centering around the French Revolution. 1789, as revolution sweeps through France, three obscure young men step into the harsh light of history. So another historical novel by Hilary Mantel, this predating her the Wolf Hall, her Cromwell trilogy. So there's that. Definitely it is definitely a chunker. It is 872 pages. I think I bought it at the height of my Hilary Mantel enthusiasm, and thus, as I but gorged myself on Hilary Mantel a couple of years ago, I put this aside because I was gorged on Hilary Mantel. So that is the one choice, and the other one is definitely one of my highlights from from a Mammoth past, which is The Master of Hestvinken by Sigrid Undset, which I read a while ago, as I said, in a Mammoth, her Kristen Lavensdatter, which I really, really love. So those are my two choices. Those are the two books off of my bookshelves that hit past the that level. So yeah, this is like 994 pages, so not too horribly ambitiously past the 800 mark. But I don't know which one I want to read. I worry about what's translation going to be like in this one, and maybe it's like, oh, am I going to get, that could be too much Mantel for me to handle. So let's take inspiration from another great booktuber, Sean the Bookmaniac, who does the 112th page tag or challenge or whatever, where you pick up a book, you read page 112, you kind of talk it out, you say, oh, is this a book that would interest me, and go from there. So I'm going to read both of them. The traditional 100-page 12 tag, you don't actually know what book you are reading. Obviously, in this one, I've let the cat out of the bag there. But yeah. So what's here? I'm going to cheat in page 111, start the paragraph, and because it ends on a chapter break, and then there's a little bit of the next chapter, so I'm just gonna read the end of this chapter. So let's give you a little hint on the Master of Hestvinken, which what is this? What the Nobel Prize winning author has succeeded in doing is to transport the reader directly into the medieval world of 13th century Norway, a world of harsh violence and haunting beauty, swift, brutal action, soaring spiritual questioning. Again, against a magnificently evoked background of unspoiled nature and a society ruled by blood, fealties, and God-fearing Christianity, we follow the drama of a proud, powerful, impetuous man, the beautiful, vulnerable woman whom he loves despite her betrayal of him, the son they raise, and the awesome destiny that they attain, which really, it's very dramatically put, but that sounds like very much familiar territory with Kristen Lavensdatter, which is also a historical novel set in similar times. I don't know exact times, but yeah, similar times, historic times, ye olde times. So yeah, let's read the first little bit of The Master of Hestvinken. I'm probably going to say that about 5 different ways in this video. The bishop had not been able to get any satisfaction from the lady Magnhilde. She would give no opinion as to what had happened she would give no opinion as to what had happened at the thing that time. She was inclined, indeed, to believe that her brother had thought the marriage between Olav Anundsson and one of her daughters, at one time in any case, but never that the match was made and settled. But Torvik declared that he was sure of it. Stenofin and Odin concluded a bargain about their children that evening. They had given each other their hands on it, and Tor himself was the one who had struck the bargain. He named 3 or 4 men who had witnessed the taking of the hands, and who were still living, so far as he knew. What agreement was made as to the settlements he knew not, but he had heard the men discuss it on a latter day, and even remembered that Unson Ingolfsson would not hear of an equal division of property unless Stinfin increased his daughter's dowry a good deal. My son will be much richer than Steinifin, Odin had said. During Advent, Ardvid went home to his farm in Erdefall for a space, and Olaf went with him. Olaf had not been there since he was a little boy. Now he came as the master's friend and equal, looking about him with discerning eyes, and put his words as a man who himself had one thing and another on his hands. Here Arnevid's mother ruled supreme, and she received Olav with both hands, since she had upset Kolbein's plans for Ingun, for she sincerely hated Kolbein and all the children her brother-in-law had had with his leman. Mistress Hildbjorg was a proud and handsome woman, old as she was, but there seemed to be a coolness between her and her son. Arvid's children were 3 petty, fair-haired boys. They take after their mother, said Arvid. Olaf was well pleased with the thought that he would be master himself when he came home to Hestevinken. Just before Yule, the friends returned to the town. Arvid wished to keep the feast there. All right, that's the first little snippet from the Master of Hestevinken, which I kind of somewhat stumbled over the language there. I mean, I'm not going to get... I do not know how to say Swedish, Norwegian names, so it's not surprising there. It seemed a little bit choppy. Definitely, this is an older translation. A little on the dry side, just in that little click section of it. So yeah, okay. So yes, let's go on to A Place of Greater Safety by Hilary Mantel, which is, great English novelist Hilary Mantel. And all about French Revolution. Okay. Lucille. She spent all the time she could alone. She reread La Nouvelle Heloise. A year ago, when she'd first picked up the book, Camille had told her he had a friend, some odd name, began with an R, who thought it was a masterpiece of the age. His friend was an arch sentimentalist. They would get on well, were they to meet. She understood that he himself did not think much of the book, and wished a little to sway her judgment. She remembered him talking to her mother of Rousseau's Confessions, which was another of those books her father would not allow her to read. Camille said that the author lacked all sense of delicacy, and that some things were better not committed to paper. Since then she had been careful what she wrote in her red diary. She recalled her mother laughing, saying, "You can do what you like, I suppose, as long as you retain a sense of delicacy." Camille had made some remark she barely heard about the aesthetics of sin, and her mother had laughed again, and leaned towards him, and touched his hair. She should have known then. These days she was remembering incidents like that, turning them over, pulling them apart. Her mother seemed to be denying, as far as one could make out what she was saying at all, that she had ever been to bed with Camille. She thought her mother was probably lying. Annette had been quite kind to her, she thought, considering the circumstances. She had once told her that time resolves most situations without the particular need for action. It seemed a spineless way to approach life. Someone will be hurt, she thought, but in every way I win. I am now a person of consequence. Results trail after my actions. She rehearsed that crucial scene. After the storm, a struggling beam of late sun had burnished a stray unpowdered hair on her mother's neck. Her hands had rested confidingly in the hollow of her waist. When Annette whirled around, her whole face had seemed to collapse, as if someone had hit her very hard. Camille had half smiled. That was strange, she thought. For just a moment he had held on to her mother's wrist, as if reserving her for another day. All right. Well, much easier to read, much more sucking me in. I think that sort of, to me, that decides it between the two. I think I will. I loved Kristen Lavensdatter. I will probably come back to this and see, maybe that was just a rough part of the translation, but this immediately hits me as a book where, you've got Rousseau, you've got kind of interesting kind of social dynamics between character and her mother. What her mother is up to. Yeah. This seems like it would be the book to read. So I guess it is going to be a Hilary Mantel month, possibly more. I will probably take a look and see. I've got this lovely. It's what is it? It's called Matchbook Press, I think is what it's called, which has what is it? Inspiration for the cover of this book was taken from matchbooks shown here in altered colors, originally produced in Eastern Europe in the 1960s. Every effort has been made to credit the artist, but at this time of the printing, no credit could be sourced. So yeah, there's a little matchbook at the back there, reproduction of it, and indeed they have here a little thing of the matchbook, which is for lighting fires in your fires in your fireplace. I'm sure not to light any nasty, horrible cigarettes. Yeah, so I'm gonna be doing this, and I'll try and see if I can't track down, see how much the ebook is for it, so I can kind of bounce back and forth between paper and ebook. Just that way, I can have more of a concentrated experience of reading in March. Yeah, and indeed, that's probably my thought is to really buckle down and read. Get the ebook, and probably the other thing is to sort of I don't know if tone down is the right word, but radically scale back all my other media during the month, and just really just be with a book for this month. And I know that the days that I settle down and I give myself over to a book and I read, I feel a lot better. I feel a lot better versus being the viewer on social media, which, I mean, I guess this is social media as well. But yeah, that's my plan. So yeah, A Place of Greater Safety by Hilary Mantel, my March of the Mammoth. All right. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Lukash. More videos later.